What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. Now, one thing I want to make clear here is that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, and I talk about this in every video, but a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now is basically history in the making. And you don't realize when you're going through it that that's the case. That when history looks back on what has happened, people are seriously going to ask the question, what caused all this and why didn't anyone stand up or react? And that's what we have to do here. As we go through these things, we have to take into account everything that's occurring. Now, here is this article that came out, and it says this pervasive sickness has made democracies more authoritarian and authoritarian regimes even worse. And it takes anyone with half a brain to realize that this is the case. Now, people who decide to be told what to do, right? Because it's very easy to do. Now, I'm not going to get into the several angles and discussions of it, but when you don't exercise independent thinking, and let me clarify actually what independent thinking is, right? When you have considered the facts on both ends and have come to a conclusion that one or the other makes sense, right? And you've come down with your own analysis and decided to make that decision for yourself. That's independent thinking. You're not swayed one way or the other because someone says so, even if it's someone from of authority. You consciously did your own thinking, your own research, and you pointed out all the facts from both sides and you made your decision. Okay? Independent critical thinking. And it's easy to think that you're doing your own thinking sometimes, but sometimes it's being fed to you and you don't even know it. So that's why you got to critically think and ask questions about the things that you're trying to find out. Now, with everything that's been happening here, you see the measures, right, that have been taken, the restrictions that have been taken by democratic governments. Here it says the world is becoming more authoritarian as non-democratic regimes become even more brazen in their repression, and many democratic governments suffer from backsliding by adopting their tactics of restricting free speech and weakening the rule of law, exacerbated by what threatens to become a new normal. How long do we have to keep going until lockdowns become the norm? And if they did it for this, what else are they going to be able to do it? Once you set precedent for something to take place, then it makes it easier for it to take place again. Okay? And we see the last 2 years have indeed been littered with examples of previously unheard of government powers on display in the U.S., and that includes everything from statewide lockdowns in which governors decreed which businesses were essential to the CDC with the backing of both administrations, right? So not just, you can't just be like, oh, Biden sucks, this, and that. No, Trump still took place in enacting these policies, okay? Given it was at a time when no one knew what this caused, but that still doesn't account because he was the one who was backing all these medicines to be distributed to everyone. So folks, when you set precedent for an emergency and the way you do it will set precedent for the next ruler. I actually heard this from George Gammon. He was saying, that's if your political party is in power right now and you are voting for, yeah, let them go ahead and do what they need to do. You give them all this power, right? What happens when the next political party takes control and are in power? Now, that same power you gave up and allowed for your political party, right? That now gets transferred to the new political party. And if they have different stances than you do, well, then it's going to come against you. But you gave them that power. Now, politicians, politics, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. They're wings of the same bird at the end of the day. And so it's not about who does what. At the end of the day, whichever administration is in power, they get the benefits, they reap the benefits of the previous administration's power and whatever they're able to accrue, right, during their time. So let's be realistic about those things, okay? And it's at the end of the day, what talks is the money, right? That's why they say follow the money trail. Now, it says outside of the U.S., places like Austria and Australia continue to ratchet up authoritarian restrictions on public interactions and economic behavior, even for people who have been inoculated. Okay, 69 countries have made violating restrictions an imprisonable offense, etc., etc. So you're seeing this take place. Now, with more and more information out there, right, and people asking to see the ingredients and asking to see the fights or trials. Well, what's happened recently? It says that an employee apparently stole 12,000 files from the medicine secrets, the lawsuit claims. So now, wow, what timing? And they were asking to keep all these records hidden away or closed for 55 years until everything was revealed. 55 years, if you think about it, 55 years is a long time. That's like if this had happened in the 70s, that means we wouldn't get it until 2025. That's 55 years. But by then, so much time has elapsed, does it even matter? So you see that? This is exactly the kind of stuff that you have to start thinking, right? Don't analyze the situation, analyze the information, and come to your own conclusions. I'm just presenting the information, but I want you guys to go look at this and go read about it and do your own research. Now, stuff like this is what makes you think like, oh, what a timing that this came at. Now we see here over 600 Google employees signed a manifesto against the mandate. And you're starting to see, now one thing that has me concerned is that we see all these mass protests happening, right? Mass protests. And it makes me wonder, because I showed in another video that the health minister of Australia encouraged and allowed for these protests to take place. You got to wonder, well, why are they doing this, right? Because in masses, right, when the masses ask for something, there's power behind that. What's the next step? What are they priming the masses for? That the masses are going to ask of these politicians, these governors. Because if the people start revolting, these politicians have to listen. So I'm very wary of that. I understand people are standing up for their freedoms, but I'm wondering if this is priming people for the next step. So always evaluate your position, especially if you find yourself on the side of the masses. That's a good time to pause and reflect on what's taking place. So, that being said, I hope this episode has brought you guys some value. Like and subscribe. Let me know your guys' thoughts. As always, appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.